Thanks for joining us, Professor. Um, I mean, this is a trade war, isn't it? If you've got the two sides counteracting each other.
We're in a trade war. We're in it. The US imposing tariffs, Canada's responding, the US just responded, and then we'll find out if Canada wants to respond. What's ironic about this trade war is the plan evidently is to get a good trade deal between the US and Canada. And if you look up legislation passed by the US Congress, we have one. It's called the USMCA. We used to have NAFTA. President Clinton negotiated that. Then the first President Trump ripped that up and decided we needed a new agreement, and that's the USMCA. And the second President Trump has arrived and he said, which idiot wrote that trade agreement? I'm going to start all over again. That's what makes this so much harder to resolve, which is there is an agreement. The president has decided he just wants a new one.
He says Canada needs America more than America needs Canada. Is that true?
Probably. Yeah, it's probably right. Now, by the same token, there has been a sense in which the administration throughout the trade war has overplayed its hand. And I can give you a very simple way of thinking about this. If you think about what share of the global economy is the United States, it's a big chunk. But actually, compared to other countries like Canada, like Europe, like much of Asia, the US economy is remarkably closed, which is to say it does very little trade. That's because a lot of the trade we do in the US is, say, between California and Texas. What that means is that America's role in global commerce is actually far smaller than its size would otherwise indicate. So you might say this is the only way you get access to the United States. It's not that compelling of a deal for most countries, although it is particularly compelling for Canada.
It's an interesting test, isn't it? Carney standing up to Trump like this. I don't think we've seen anyone do it quite in such a forthright way, saying, well, basically, let's go for it then. We'll put tariffs on you as well. It's going to be an interesting case, isn't it, to see how far Americans will be tested on this, because there will be a repercussion on the US, presumably.
So we got into this game with China during 2025, where the US and China escalated until both sides were like, hey, this is kind of silly. And then they just all got together and met and decided to call the whole thing off. So America's resolve, frankly, is something that one could question. There's something very distinct and very unique and very Canadian about the current thing, though, which is it's not just that Trump has imposed tariffs on Canada. Trump has called the Canadian Prime Minister a governor. He said that it is or should be the 51st state and has quite explicitly threatened to invade or use American might to take Canada and make it part of the United States, whether they like it or not. On the American side of the border, this is understood to be the president trolling and it's all very funny and ha, ha, ha. On the Canadian side, they regard that as a fundamental threat to their sovereignty. They see this as not something that's forgivable and not something that's even remotely in the neighborhood of funny. What that's meant is even if Carney wanted to not retaliate, the politics of this have changed because of the president's, let me be clear, dumb threats to take over Canada. And so it's not just a trade war for the Canadians, it's also a question of survival.
Certainly within Canada, you're hearing a lot of anti-American sentiment, aren't you? Let's just hear from the Premier of Ontario.
I have a lot of real estate on my ass, so he has a lot of room to kiss my ass. No, I don't respond to a dictator like President Trump, a bully like President Trump. As I said before, he's the type of guy in school that would take your lunch money one day, take your toque off your head the next day, and then steal your running shoes. But I'm not going to take any advice off a guy that's the king of bankruptcies. I've been in this game a lot longer than he has. I got skin on me like an alligator. And you think an insult from him hurts me? Well, bring it on, buddy. I'm ready. Bring it on.
There are lots of regular Canadians as well, aren't there, Professor, who are boycotting American goods. Do you think the Canadian Prime Minister is actually just representing the voice of his people, or do you think it's, him just trying to save his own political career, which is what Scott Bessent suggested today?
No, I think he's really representing the Canadian people. The level of anger in Canada is just an altogether different level. This really isn't trade. This is a whole lot more than that. This is betrayal. This is a close ally. This is a close neighbor. There's an existing trade agreement and there's a threat to take over Canada. None of that is seen as funny. in that, it may be, look, I think there's a reasonable economic argument to be made that when the president does something silly, you just keep quiet and go about your own business. So there's an argument that Carney should just shut up. But the politics of the situation that the president has created in Canada with so much ill will, I think really leaves Carney with no choice but to be seen to be standing up to President Trump, the same way you just saw Doug Ford doing.
Okay. Professor Wolfers, thank you as ever for joining us on, from the midst of this trade war.